The harsh, unyielding savanna stretched out endlessly, the wind carrying the distant rustle of grass and the faint calls of unseen creatures. The clan of Homo habilis moved silently through the tall grasses, their senses keen to the world around them. Among them, one figure stood apart, his posture alert, his head slightly tilted as if listening to something beyond the reach of normal human hearing. His ears, attuned to frequencies most could never perceive, allowed him to sense the slightest movements in the environment, to hear the flutter of a bird's wings miles away, and the quiet thrum of hooves as large herds of animals traveled. As the tribe navigated their way toward the river, their heightened hearing detected a sound. It was subtle at first, the rustle of leaves, the snap of a twig underfoot, but it grew louder and closer. The man named Thera stopped abruptly, his face going rigid with concentration. His extraordinary hearing brought the sounds of the savanna into sharp clarity, transforming the world into a symphony of whispers and pulses. "Do you hear it?" Thera whispered to his companion, a young hunter named Kale, who stood next to him. He could hear the rustle of the tall grasses moving against one another, the faint movement of a predator stalking through the underbrush. But what alarmed him most was the unmistakable sound of something larger, something dangerous, a predator closing in just beyond the tree line. Kyle listened, straining his senses, but he heard nothing. To him, the world was a blur of ambient noises, a cacophony of sounds that seemed indistinct and distant. But Thera's ears picked out the movements of the predator, its heavy rhythmic breathing, the subtle snap of its claws as it crept through the dry earth. He knew this was no ordinary day, and their lives were on the line. Without warning, Thera grabbed Kyle's arm, pulling him into the cover of the thick brush. "Something approaches," he murmured, his voice low, urgent. Kyle's face twisted in confusion, but before he could ask what it was, the world around them grew still. The animals in the distance seemed to sense it too. The rhythm of their movements slowed, and the air grew tense. Just then, a rustle broke the silence, louder, now closer. The trees around them swayed, as a great shape loomed from the underbrush. Thera's hearing led him to sense the vibrations in the ground, and he could feel the predator's presence before Kyle even saw it. A massive lioness, sleek and powerful, prowled from the trees, its eyes scanning the horizon. The predator was hunting, but it was not the humans it had been tracking yet. Thera's acute senses told him it was just a matter of time. It was too close, too dangerous. The group of hunters was positioned further along the savanna, unaware of the looming danger. The pride of lions, drawn to the scent of the humans, crept toward their position. Every predator's movement amplified in Thera's mind. This moment would soon erupt into chaos, but the tribe needed to be ready. As Thera guided Kyle silently through the underbrush, he reached for a stone-tipped spear, carefully preparing for the inevitable conflict. His hearing now strained to the maximum, every snap of the grass under his feet, every rustle of leaves betrayed something new. The lioness was closing in, and the tension in the air could be felt thick and heavy, waiting for the moment to strike. The tribe would have to defend itself, and they would rely on Thera's extraordinary hearing to avoid disaster. But as the lioness made her move, the stakes were higher than ever. As Thera crouched low, he could hear the faintest shift in the air, the predator's claws scraping against the dirt as it moved closer. His hearing was not just a tool for detecting danger. It was his lifeline. He could hear the lioness's heartbeat, the pulse of her blood, each breath a warning. She was mere yards away now, her instincts attuned to the slightest movements. The tribe's hunters, still unaware, were too far to hear the soft growl that escaped the lioness's throat. But Thera could. He could feel the vibrations of her growl reverberate in his bones, sending a signal to his muscles to prepare for action. His eyes met Kael's, and without a word they both knew what needed to be done. "Ready your spear," Thera whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of the wind. He had no time to explain, no room for hesitation. The lioness would soon be on them, and Kael's primitive hearing could never give him the edge that Thera possessed. They waited. The savannah was deathly silent, the only sound now the racing pulse in Thera's ears. He could hear the air shifting as the lioness tensed for her attack. In the distance, the tribe remained oblivious, moving forward as if in a dream, unaware of the danger creeping ever closer. And then, suddenly, the moment arrived. The lioness lunged forward with a bone-shaking roar, her powerful muscles propelling her towards them with frightening speed. Thera's heightened senses warned him in time. He was already in motion, pulling Kael back further into the brush. His senses told him the lioness would strike in an instant, and they needed to be ready to strike first. As the lioness pounced, Thera's spear was already in the air. His aim was true, but his senses were on high alert. He could hear the rush of air as the lioness bore down on them. Everything was in slow motion, her claws slicing through the air. He twisted at the last moment, jabbing the spear into her side as she came within inches of him. The impact of the strike, combined with the lioness's force, sent both of them crashing to the ground. The tribe's hunters heard the commotion now, but it was too late for them to intervene in time. Kael moved quickly to help Thera, pulling the spear free from the lioness's side as it thrashed in the dust. Blood soaked the ground and the air was filled with the chaotic symphony of the savannah. The growl of the lioness, the cries of the tribe, and the pounding of hearts in overdrive. Kael stepped forward, taking up his own spear. "We finish this together," he said, his voice fierce and determined. Thera nodded, his heightened hearing still sharply tuned to the lioness's every move. The battle was far from over. The lioness, while weakened, was not defeated. She bared her teeth, lashing out with renewed fury. But Thera's hearing gave him the edge. He could hear her heartbeat, slowing her movements, growing sluggish as her blood loss took its toll. He could sense the moment of her weakness, and with a final thrust, he and Kael drove their spears deep into her chest. The lioness let out a final tortured growl before collapsing into the earth, still lifeless. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the sound of their labored breathing. Kael stood over the beast, panting, while Thera crouched beside it, his senses already tuning to the rest of the tribe, who had now arrived to witness the aftermath of the struggle. The danger was over, but the tension remained. The tribe gathered around, each one aware that without Thera's extraordinary hearing, they would not have survived the encounter. The battle had been a fierce test of their will to survive, but it was not the only challenge they would face. The savannah was full of dangers, and they had to remain alert. With Thera's unique ability, they had a chance, but they knew that survival was never guaranteed. It was only through unity, trust, and the gift of heightened awareness that they could continue to endure. As the sun began to set over the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the savannah, the tribe settled in for the night. They had survived, but they had also learned the cost of their survival. Their lives were intertwined with the land, the animals, and each other. And now, as the quiet returned to the savannah, Thera listened to the sounds of the night, every rustle of the grass, every flutter of wings, every shift in the air, knowing that their survival depended on listening, on hearing what the world had to say. In the vast savannah, the tribe of Homo habilis, guided by Thera's extraordinary hearing, sensed danger before it struck. As a lioness closed in, Thera's heightened senses allowed him to detect her every move, giving him the advantage. With his spear in hand, he and Kael defended their tribe, ultimately defeating the predator. The battle was fierce. But Thera's ability to hear the lioness's movements in minute detail was what saved them. As the tribe gathered around, they realized that survival depended not only on strength, but on listening to the world around them. Their unity and heightened awareness were their greatest tools. As the sun set, they settled for the night, knowing the savannah would always test them, but with Thera's gift, they had hope for survival.